Hey everybody, it's Mark here at Primus English, and I've got a new video. A few weeks ago we had a simulation test, and this was the task for the academic test. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to go through it with you, and I'm going to show you how you can get that high score. This is the format that we teach at Primus. All the teachers use it, and I just want you to have a look. So the first thing that I'm going to tell you to do when you're doing the academic task 1 is to take 5 minutes and analyze the task. Generally speaking, everyone tells you 20 minutes for task 1. I agree with this. I would recommend that you take 5 minutes. Yes, absolutely. 5 minutes. Set a timer, pay attention. 5 minutes to analyze the information so that you know what you're going to write before you start writing. Now you're probably thinking, but I won't have enough time. If you have a good analysis, 15 minutes is more than enough time to do this task. So what I would recommend is right now, take 5 minutes, pause the recording and look. And I'll give you one hint. In a bar graph like this one, carefully look at both these years, 2002, 2011, and pay attention to the differences. Press pause right now, make some notes now. Okay, welcome back. I'm sure all of you took the 5 minutes to analyze it. Let's take a look at the analysis. Now, we've had some students get their 7s and 7.5s in academic writing, and I'm going to show you how we did this. So first of all, when I look at the data, I note a few things. One, this is all taking place in the past. That is important, and it's going to affect the grammar choices we make. So I've made my notes, 2002, 2011, all in the past. Then I look at the year 2002, and I think, okay, so 2002, altogether, all of these forms of consumption, rentals, sales, the total number was actually 315,000 units. Now, we don't have any information. We don't know if, how much money was being made. We just know the number of units. So I've calculated those all together. That's how much it is. Is this important to be perfectly accurate? No. But it is good to get a bit of an idea. Then, I noted in that year, rentals were the biggest, and clearly they were, roughly 185,000. You don't need the exact number. VHS sales were less common or less popular, clearly by less than half. And that was an important thing I noted. As I went further, I noted that by 2006, they were gone. Furthermore, DVDs were the smallest. They were a very small amount at about 45,000. That's all I've got there. Then I look at 2011. By this time, altogether, we're at 248,000. So again, we don't know about the profit. This could have actually been more profitable, even though the number has come down. But it's interesting to note that by this time, the units consumed decreased. So the number of units that were being sold or rented has decreased. So that's an important point to note. That's almost like a 1/6 decrease. In this task, it's not that important, but sometimes you're seeing massive decreases in these numbers or increases, and that's important for the overall change. Then DVDs, as you can see, are now the biggest here, and they peaked in 2007, and I haven't put that in my notes, but that's, fairly obvious that they clearly became the top one and then went down. Rentals were 4 times less, so they started up here and they've ended here. So it's roughly a quarter of what it used to be. And it's 1/3 the amount of DVD sales. You can see it's roughly a third. But look at that. It's down here and it used to be up here. So it's decreased by roughly 75%, which is quite a lot. And it's also notably lower than DVD sales. Finally, Blu-ray sales have grown every year since 2007. Now, this is an important point that everybody overlooks in the IELTS test. Here, they are about, 2,000? Okay? They're roughly 2,000. And what I've noted here is that, let's turn that off, they're roughly 2,000. They've grown up here to about 12,000. That's roughly 6 times the growth. So that's really important to pay attention to. Although DVDs have grown 4 times, I mean, that's a lot, and yes, they are clearly the biggest one, you can't just say Blu-ray is small and unimportant. Blu-ray has grown, and it's grown by a factor of 6 times since 2007. So it's shown a greater overall growth in half the time. So that's really an important point. And most schools will overlook this. They'll say, yeah, it's small and it increased slightly. But really think about that. Even between 2007 and maybe 2008 or 9, in those 2 years, sales doubled. That's 100% growth. That's important. So don't think that this is not an important point. If you're aiming for a high score, you need to be able to see that that is major, major change. Let's take a look at the task that I've got here. Now, full disclosure, what I've done is 199 words. That's, it's notably bigger, but we'll just have to accept that. Do you have to have that much? No. But should you show signs of strong analysis? Absolutely. So let's take a look. First step, I've basically copied the text from the first task here. Now, everyone says paraphrase it. It's not wrong, but if you just copy it, it's fine. They just won't count it in your test. And to be frank, even if you make small changes, the small changes I make here, they might still look at that and say, okay, that is only minor lexical alteration. If you copy or make minor changes, it has no impact. It took me 5 seconds to type this. But if you take 3 minutes to paraphrase it, or even 2 minutes to paraphrase it, you are wasting useful time for your writing and analysis. So my advice, don't bother with complicated, paraphrasings. Just copy it or change it slightly, but don't spend a lot of time on this. It does not matter. A few people have commented, no, I was told that. It doesn't matter. I am a former IELTS examiner. It does not matter. I've seen people make these changes. They'll take out 2 words or change 1 word, and it just does not impact the score. And the examiner might not even consider it in your word count. So this word count here, 199, actually doesn't count these words. We'll move on. You must show the overall trend. So overall trend must be shown. So here I've said overall the trend changed notably, seeing DVD sales clearly overtake rentals as the main form of film consumption at this store by 2011. Furthermore, the total number of units sold and rented decreased. So this conglomerate amount, this total number, has gone down. So I've pointed that out in my text. So that's important. Now, you at least want to get one of those points. If you're aiming for a 7, you should have some overall trend. You might say overall DVDs overtook rentals as the main form. That's perfect. That's good. And that's a simple one. Mine is a bit more complex. And, again, it highlights a more complex and less common grammar. Okay. Then I start with 2002 and I look at rentals. So in 2002, rentals were clearly the most common way of consuming film. Now, another way I could start this sentence is to say, over the 10 years, rentals became less popular. That's fine as well. You could either show the overall trend, which I would recommend, but here I started this trend with where they are at the beginning. At roughly 185,000 sales, they were more than double the next highest format. So again, they're twice as big as VHS. However, this number showed a clear downward trend, falling each year until hitting just under 60,000 in 2002. Now, this is important. You want to have a trend and data. So here I say clear downward trend, and then I give the data. So this is important. You have the trend, and then support it with data. One thing you must do in the IELTS test is always support trend with data. So please do that. This one's a little different from other ones I've written, but it still does it. So here I've got data, and then here, trend, most common way of consuming film. And again, I support and highlight it and compare it by saying that they were more than double the next highest format. So I've done a few things here. I've got trend, data, and highlight and comparison. And this is important. When you say it's 185, you also have to point out that's the highest. That's the trend. And then here I've highlighted it even further by saying it's more than double the next highest format. Then VHS also showed a downward trend, and then I support it with the data starting at roughly 85,000 and falling sharply. Now, I don't say falling sharply too, I just point out by 2006, VHS had ceased. So I've got trend data. Beautiful. Also, note the grammar. By 2006, sales had decreased. That's like the most beautiful part about teaching IELTS Task 1 is the past perfect. By had. Past perfect. Only with by. Do not use in 2006. Only use by 2006. Moving forward. DVD sales. Okay, so now I've moved on to DVD sales. That is the topic of this of most of the paragraph here. DVD sales started, nice past tense, at roughly 45,000 in 2002. So again, in 2002, I use past simple and showed an upward trend. Now I'm showing off a little bit here. Although the volume of sales peaked in 2007 at just over 200,000 units, so again, trend, it peaked, and data, 200,000 units. They were clearly the most common form of film consumption. By 2011, they were clearly the most popular at just under. So again, they were still clearly the most common. Again, trend, 180,000 data. And then I highlight it, nearly 3 times that of rentals. So you can see here, it's nearly 3 times that of rentals. And I just say nearly. You don't have all this time to do all these careful calculations. Now, I could have gone a bit further. Like I could have pointed out here, that 200,000 units is like the highest of all of them. Like nothing else, at the highest, rentals were not as high as DVD sales. So I could have mentioned that here. That might have helped me, have a better task 1, but still, this should be adequate for a top score. Then, again, one of the smallest, but not, you can't ignore this. Blu-ray sales, however, showed notable growth. So again, I'm not like, oh, they're small. After first appearing at roughly 2,000 units in 2007, they had grown to roughly 13,000 by 2011. And again, could be 12,000, could be 13, doesn't really matter. I still said roughly, so I've been careful. Although they are still the smallest format, now that's the key point. I still said they are small, and they are definitely, they're not, they're way smaller than the other ones. I could even go even further. Although they are still clearly the smallest format for consumption, they have shown strong growth. Again, I could go further and say they have shown the most growth, showing 6 times, the growth, or, whatever it is. But I've just gone with strong growth to keep it a bit more simple. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about. That's how you do it. Please take a look over that again if you wish. I think it's really, analysis is really important. And let's take a look at some of the notes about this. As I said, this is a bit longer, but you know what? It took me about 5-6 minutes to write it because I did the analysis. And to be honest with you, I've done this analysis a lot, so it is natural for me to do this. In our IELTS classes, the students do this every day. They are constantly doing this. So yeah, students at our classes just repeat this process. You're not at our school, but you can absolutely practice this. And I will also say, be very careful. A lot of teachers do not understand this. They do not teach this. It's possible to get those good scores without them, with them, but most of them just focus on slight increase, slight decrease, and they don't really teach the analysis. So my main points: take 5 minutes to analyze. Have an overview. This is actually really important. To get a 7, you need to show some sort of overall trend. Most teachers will say put it at the beginning or the end. That's fine. I would agree with that. Don't waste time paraphrasing. Again, like, this is so meaningless. And I've seen other teachers like spend hours like teaching how to paraphrase this. Waste of time. Absolutely. Look, it's not wrong if you do it, but it might not help you the way you think it's helping you. Grammar point. By 2011, it had reached nearly 13,000 units. Don't try to be creative with this. By, had, end of discussion. That's it. Don't try to be like, oh, I'm going to use past perfect continuous, or I'm going to use, just by, had. It's and then grammar point as well. Participle clauses. DVD sales showed strong growth. Okay, that's the trend. And then I use a participle clause for the data, starting at 45,000 and growing to over 200,000 by 2007. My main point of advice here: watch the other videos that I've made. They will give you more examples of how and when to use participle clauses. They are the most important tool in a writer's arsenal. Please learn how to use these. Participle clauses will give you so much flexibility, and you will get that killer score that you want on IELTS Academic Task 1. All right, thank you. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section. Have a wonderful day.